the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, welcome back to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast, where I am trying to spread awareness about what it is like living with chronic disease. I have been living with multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. I explain my journey and I talk to other chronic disease warriors throughout the world just to help people understand better what it is like. Today, I am sitting down with an MSer from the state of Texas. I met Q on social media a few weeks ago, and I just really hit it off with him. We got a lot in common. He was a former prison worker. He did 10 years working in the prison system down in Texas, and I did 20 in Ohio, so we had that connection. And he just wanted to come on just to explain his journey. He's been dealing with his MS for the last 10, 11 years. Please welcome to the podcast, Q. How you doing today, Q?
Hey, man, I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you, Q. Like I was saying, I met you a few weeks ago, and I instantly had an instant connection with you, just knowing that you were in the prison system and down in Texas. And, the more I talked with you and just got to know you, man, I love everything you're about. You got hit with this disease, and you're not a quitter. You keep on fighting. And I just wanted to hear your story so other people can understand this a little bit better. What happened when 10 years ago when you were going through your symptoms? Can you just kind of take us through what was going on in your life, Q, and what made you go to a doctor to try to get it figured out?
Yeah, it was a normal day. I woke up and got ready for work, and as I was leaving out of the house, I walked out of the door, and when the sun hit me, everything just went black. I couldn't see anything, so I kind of felt my way back in the house and sat down on the couch that was by the door until I started gaining my vision back. And I tried it again and walked out of the door. And just like the first time when the sun hit me, everything went black and I couldn't see anything. So I felt my way back in the house again, sat down, and I called a friend and asked her if she could come take me to the ER. Something wasn't right. Something was off. And she came over. She helped me out of the house. When I got outside, everything went black again. I handed her the key to lock the door, and she helped me to the car, took me to the ER, and sat with me inside until I could see again. And then she left. And when I was called back, they ran several tests on me. By this time, my mother had got off work, and she was in the room with me. And the doctor came in, and he asked her if she could get off the phone. At that point, I raised up like, "What are you about to tell me?"
Mm-hmm.
And he told me I had multiple sclerosis, and I have no previous knowledge of it. Didn't know what it was. Didn't know anything about it. All I could do was look at my mother and be like, "Is this a death sentence?" Like just clueless. And
Yeah.
and when they discharged me and let me know they referred me to a neurologist, I went home scared, and I just went cold turkey on everything for like a month. I didn't eat nothing but fruits and salads because I didn't know what was next in life.
Right.
Uh, it really flipped everything upside down, you know?
Yeah, I understand that,
And
man. And how old were you when you were going through this, Q?
I was like 25, 26, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, you're like the same age as me, man. I was 26 years old when I started going through my symptoms, and mine was vision too. Um I started seeing double, and I couldn't even see. I couldn't tell the difference between red, yellow, and green at a traffic light, and it freaked me out, man. I was scared to death, and it was my journey was a 10-month process to get my diagnosis. I went to doctors and I wasn't getting answers. They wanted to do spinal taps. I'm like, you know what? Screw that. I'm not doing it. And I ran away from the disease for 10 months. And I went 10 months like struggling just to see, I completely understand where you're coming from when it affects your vision like that, man. It is a scary, scary thing, my friend.
Yes. And even after that, man, I saw a neurologist. He explained to me a little bit about it, and he prescribed me Tecfidera. And at the age I was and where I was mentally, I never got it filled. I never took any medication, and my symptoms lay dormant for 6 years.
Wow. Wow.
And
So after your initial episode, how did they get you back up to your baseline? Did they do steroids, or did they just not treat it and it just came back gradually?
I believe they gave me a steroid through my IV in the hospital when I was diagnosed.
Okay.
Um, that's basically the only thing
The only
for treatment wise I had for it.
that early, yeah. And then you didn't want to do the tech for dare. That's a choice though, Q, and that's a decision that we are faced with, when we get that diagnosis, because the only thing that's out there are the DMTs, to slow it down. There's no cure for it. And when you get told that you have you have MS, now you got that decision to make. Okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to put this DMT in my body? And then you do the research on the DMT and you find out the side effects on that, and it's a decision that you have to make, and you decided not to do it, and I totally understand that, and it went dormant 6 years. So why put that drug into your body? You're feeling good, so I get it, man. You're rolling through life,
Yeah, and for a while I started telling myself maybe I was misdiagnosed, maybe he had it wrong,
right?
and it's something I left in God's hands
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as I went along.
yeah. So even though you had MS and it was dormant, were you still having little symptoms here and there in that 6 year period, or were you like you were back to Q, the old Q, and everything was good?
I was back to myself, man, doing the things I did before, working the way I wanted to work, eating the things I wanted to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I was still able to run. You know, I never was affected by anything for those 6 years.
Yeah. So you pretty much said, you know what? Okay, I got diagnosed with MS, but I feel fine, so I'm just going to roll through life and keep on going, and that's the way you did it. And I love that though, Q. I mean, you got that. When I got that initial diagnosis when I was 27, the doctors said, hey, we can put you on a DMT. And of course I was scared, and I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. I didn't know what was going to happen to me, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But for you to make that decision, I don't want to put that drug into my body. I applaud you on that. To make that decision at 27 years old, and you got to go with what your what you feel in your gut, and I know a lot of people struggle with that. They're like, I don't want to take a DMT. Do I take a DMT? But that's just something that's a personal choice, and you rolled that way for 6 years, and you're working in the prisons. But I know that you ended up going on a DMT. What happened, at the 6 year point when things started going derailing again on you?
So I relocated to another unit, and on one of my off days, I had went fishing, and then when I finished and I was walking back to the car, I noticed I started having a slight pain in my right foot
Hmm.
that then was a consistent pain. It was like every day, every step, it was like kind of a slight painful step.
Mm-hmm.
And then, over the next couple weeks, my balance began to be off. So to kind of hide it from the outside eye, when I did past searches at work, I would kind of make sure I'm leaning against the wall. So when I bend down to pat search their legs, I wouldn't stumble back or kind of fall back or anything.
Yeah,
I had
sure.
something to support me.
Mm-hmm.
And then came one night, we had a disturbance in a dorm, and um, I was getting my hair cut by the officer barber.
Mm-hmm.
And when they radioed it, I told the barber, "Hey, take the cape off of me, and when I come out, y'all go to the laundry hallway, and I'll be back when I'm finished to get y'all."
Mm-hmm.
So when I came out of the barber shop and I attempted to run, I took like two steps and I couldn't run, and I was like, "No." So then I tried it again, and the
Mm-hmm.
same thing happened. So I just kind of put it to the side and finished what was going on, got everything
Yeah.
situated and figured out. And when I got off that next morning, I was like, something's not right.
Yeah.
I tried to run and I couldn't run.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, uh, I I wasn't seeing a doctor in Denton. So I went back to my doctor after I moved home, like a couple months later.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my initial primary care doctor, he had retired. So I was seeing a new primary care doctor, and he put me through all the same tests I had done when I was diagnosed.
Right.
Um, and he reconfirmed that I had multiple sclerosis, and he asked me if I had my preference on the neurologist I wanted to see, and I began looking into it and picked one out, and he sent the referral. I saw him, and uh, for what it's worth, I think I did like pretty good job picking this neurologist.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got with him, uh, and explained everything to him, what was going on, and he again prescribed me Tecfidera. So this time I got it filled and I took it for the first time. And I think like maybe 2 months down the road, um, I was kind of noticing my symptoms accelerating, but I was just kind of trying to play it off, play it cool.
Right.
And then I had a doctor's appointment with my primary care doctor, and that's the visit that changed everything. He watched the way I walked in, and he was just observing my body behavior, and he was like, "Man, the condition you're in, I'm gonna have to deem your line of work unsafe and recommend that you resign and apply for disability."
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday, Q, and I was just kind of blown away, because I went on a disability after 20 years working with the state, but my doctor never he didn't take me out of work. I took myself out of work. I mean, if that makes sense, I've never had a doctor sit there and tell me, Brian, your MS is too bad. You can't work anymore. My doctor always gave me the choice. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
if you want to do the disability paper, I'll fill it out for you. But he never like made me do it. And it was just interesting when you told me that your doctor, basically wrote you off work, and that scared the shit out of you. And and you just basically
Yeah.
you went you didn't handle it the way you would have handled it had you have known what was going to happen to you because of what you did. Go ahead and explain how how you went with your job and your career when that doctor did that to you.
So at the time, I was a captain at the facility I was working at, and man, uh, I had heard of doctors like restricting people from things, but
Mm-hmm.
Like when he deemed my line of work unsafe and told me he would recommend that I resign and apply for disability, it was a shocker because it was like, man, everything that I worked so hard to get to is now gone
Right. Yeah.
in a 45-minute doctor visit.
Yeah. I
And
know it. I feel you, Q. I just can't. And that is, that is part of this mental game that people just don't understand that we have to go through. You get this diagnosis and we're sitting there fighting. You're fighting for the last 6 years. Even though you're not treating your MS, you still have MS and you're working with it. You're fighting, and then you got a doctor telling you, no, you know what? I don't think you can work anymore. But you know what? I really do want to work, and I think I can. I mean, it shouldn't be the doctor taking you out of work like that. I don't agree with it. I've never been through that, and I was blown away when you were telling me that, and it affected how your disability, your money that you worked for your whole life, it affected everything about that, and then people just don't understand that part of it.
yeah, yeah, it drove me to depression.
Yeah.
Like it hurt turning my uniforms in. And like even turning them in, the last person I wanted to see was my major because me and her had a great relationship, somewhat like a mother and son.
Yeah.
And when I saw her come out, it was like I couldn't hold it in, man.
Hmm.
I just cried because I didn't know what I was gonna do from here.
I get you, Q,
Like,
man. It's a scary, scary feeling. And I know when I went through that in 2015, after 20 years with the state of Ohio, and I decided that I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. I broke down. I mean, I went into a bad depression. I spiraled. It was a bad, bad part of my life, or a 2 year period of my life, because you lose your identity. 20 years of working in a prison, that was me, and it was gone. And yeah, I totally understand what you're talking about, brother.
and even after uh I resigned and applied for disability, like even the next 2 months, like they were tough. Like I went from walking independently to walking with a cane.
Yeah.
Like, and my fatigue was something that bothered me, and I
Hmm.
couldn't walk as much as I once could, and I
Right.
always had to take breaks.
Yeah.
And not even, not even maybe 3 months after I started walking with a cane, I graduated to a walker.
Yeah. And that
And
and that
it
and that beats up our mind too. I mean, you're a guy like I am. You're a strong guy.
yeah,
You're a big guy. You worked in a prison. You're a tough guy, and now you got to use a cane, and now you got to use a walker, and that affects our mental health too.
is something that really affected me with the age I'm at, and having to depend on using the mobility aid to get around.
Hmm.
And it drove my depression even deeper, and that depression turned into me not wanting to do anything. And the only thing I would do was sit in the room and watch TV. And at that time, I'm sitting back there watching TV, and just when I'm done watching TV, I just sit with the TV off, and I'm just going deeper into depression, and nobody's checking on me, nobody's talking to me.
Hmm.
The only time the room door opened was one of my kids coming to ask me, was I hungry?
Yeah.
And if I said yeah, one of them will bring me something to eat, and that's it. They'll come get the dishes
Yeah.
like an hour later.
Yeah.
And it turned into me having suicidal thoughts, like I was a burden on everybody. Like everybody would be better if I wasn't here anymore.
Yeah. I went through this.
Life would be better for everyone.
I get it, Q, and I went through the same thing, man. And after I stopped being able to work with the state of Ohio, You're sitting inside of a room, four walls, and it's isolation. I mean, you spent 10 years, I spent 20 years working in a prison. I mean, we understand the isolation part. We've seen inmates, when they go in for disciplinary and they're by themselves. I mean, isolation is a terrible, terrible thing to be in, and when you get this chronic disease, that's what happens to us. We're inside of our house. Sometimes we can't get up and move out of our house, and it's a very dark, dark place that we can get into if that is our life, and we got to figure out a way to not get into that, and how did you get yourself out of that, and talk. I'd love to talk to you about that because I know how strong you are now, and I know you weren't there, but I want to hear how you got there, buddy.
Man, it's something I say all the time, man. God got me through that. There were a couple of times, man. Uh, I was sitting back there and just having those suicidal thoughts. Couple of those times, man, I had a gun in my mouth, ready to pull the trigger
Mm-hmm.
and just get it over with. Cause I was at my lowest. I wasn't providing anymore. I wasn't that man I used to be,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know if I would ever be that man
Yep.
again.
Yep. I understand the cue. I understand it, and when you're sitting by yourself, that's all you have is your mind, and that's all you're doing is thinking about things, and you don't have anybody checking on you. It's a lot of crazy thoughts go through your head, and I totally understand that. But, I know when I was going through that, my wife, she's like, she put her foot down. She's like, either you're going to go get some help or we're going to split up. And that's what motivated me to go see a doctor and be like, hey, I'm having these thoughts. I'm thinking about doing bad things to myself. I need help. And, I finally did that. I broke down. I'm a guy. I didn't want to admit depression was part of this disease, but it is. And I'm so happy that I did. I did get help, because I couldn't imagine if I wouldn't have been around these last 10 years, all the shit that I would have missed, And I know that we talked about this yesterday and you feel the same way. Thank God you didn't do it too, buddy.
Yeah. Even getting through that, the road got a little bit tougher. August 31st of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
There was a day I'll never forget. Um, my spouse at the time, she had went to go do something at work, and I really thought I was at home by myself, and I wanted a drink of water. So I got up to go get a drink of water, and I kind of stumbled over to the wall. And as I was coming out of the room door, I fell, and I knew I needed something to help me get up. So I kind of crawled around to the kitchen sink, and I grabbed the sink, and I was trying to get up, and I couldn't get up.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was like, nobody was here with me. I thought my kids were with her,
Right.
or she had took them to my great aunt to babysit them while
Mm-hmm.
she was gone. So I kind of scooted over to the stove, and I just sat up against the stove, and I was like, I guess I'll be here until she gets back.
Right.
And like, no, probably 5 minutes later, man, my oldest son, he came around the corner, and I asked him, I said, man, y'all still here? I thought I was seeing something at first.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yes, sir. And I said, man, do me a favor. I said, go in that room and get my phone and call your granny and tell her to call EMS. I've fallen and I can't get up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on. So she called them and she came over. And when EMS got there, they helped me get up and they helped me get in the wheelchair. Then they helped me to the gurney and they took me to the hospital where I spent 7 days and I was getting steroid injections every 12 hours. And I saw a physical therapist 3 times while I was in there. And she was teaching me how to walk with a walker. teaching me how to walk again.
Mhm.
And it was something that was real uncomfortable and different for me. And you know, I was on a mission to like do it and actually try to walk again.
Yeah.
So even when I left, I was discharged 7 days later. They had referred me to a physical therapist, and I started physical therapy. By that time, by the time I started physical therapy, I was doing my own workouts at home and building strength with just walking around.
Mhm.
And I was back walking with a cane when I started physical therapy. And the work I put in during that session of physical therapy, by the time it ended, I was back walking independently. And so I felt good about things. I felt like things were going up.
Yeah.
And even after that, yeah, it was just like I explained everything to my neurologist after I saw him when I finished physical therapy, and he made the switch from Tecfidera to Ocrevus. He told me, man, with what you experienced over these last months, I think we need to take a more aggressive approach to it.
Yeah.
And Ocrevus is the best medicine for MS on the market right now.
Right. Right.
And so I made the switch to that. And uh, even the first infusion, it's broke up in twos. You get half of it 1 week, and then 2 weeks later, you get the other half.
Mhm.
So I went the first time and I had my cane. And the infusion center I went to, there was a older lady. She was there getting her infusion. And she looked at me and she said, "How long have you been on the cane?" I said, a couple months, because I went back to the cane by then.
Mhm.
And she said, what are you here to get? I said, I'm here to get Ocrevus. I have multiple sclerosis. And she said, I have it too, and I get Ocrevus. She said, oh, don't worry. You won't have that cane long. And so talking with her, it kind of left me in good spirits. So after that first half, I felt good about things.
That's awesome,
And
man.
then,
That's awesome that you had that lady just to talk to, just to get her opinion
yeah,
on her experience with Ocrevus, and just having that lady say that to you, man. That's just an awesome thing, Q. That's an awesome part of the story.
yeah. And so I would say after I got that second half, I would say maybe a month after that is when I began to walk independently again.
Hmm.
And I really felt good about things. And um I did I didn't have anything serious happen after that.
Hmm.
And to this day, I still haven't had anything serious happen. Even though I just passed my 2 year mark from my last relapse.
Man, that is
And
so that
looking up statistics,
yeah,
uh, people with MS, relapsing remitting MS, normally have a relapse every 2 years.
yeah.
So where I'm at now, man, it's it's all God. It's a blessing.
That's awesome, man. I love it, Q. And that is the attitude that you have to have with this disease. No matter how bad it kicks you, and it kicked you hard. You lost your career over it. You were really struggling walking, but you never gave up. And you took your you got on the DMT and you put the work in, the PT, and you improved everything. And that's why I tell people, just because you're down doesn't mean you're not going to get better. There could still be improvement, strength improvement. I know a lady that was in a wheelchair and she has primary progressive, and she's walking without a wheelchair, or she's walking without a cane and anything now. I mean, anything is possible. You just can't quit. You got to keep on going. You got to keep on moving. You got to keep on trying. You can't give up.
No, you can't. You always have to keep going, man. Always find your why and keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and that's one thing I've done, man. And I tell people all the time, man. Like multiple sclerosis, it may have took everything from me, but God is gonna give me everything back times 10.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Let me ask you this: how you got kids, man? How do your kids understand it? My kids never have known me without MS. They grew up. They were born. I had MS when they were both born, so they've lived their whole life with it. And it's just interesting how people try to introduce their kids to MS, or some parents they don't, they don't want their kids knowing that they're sick, and they don't tell them. How did you handle it with your kids, and how do they understand it today?
Yeah, I think they saw the severity of it when I was in the hospital with it,
Hmm.
and I've had all three of my kids after my diagnosis, but I think here recently, my boys, they understand it. They're starting to understand it better. And like I even hear them tell people sometimes, "Nah, my dad can't do that."
Okay.
And it's something, man, where I have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get down about it because I want to do those things with my kids,
Right.
but I have to understand that, hey, they're starting to see that I have this illness, and they're starting to see how it limits me,
Hmm.
and they know what I can and can't do, and they're looking out for me.
Yeah. It's interesting too because like I said, both of my kids they never know me without MS, and I actually did a recording with my daughter, episode 13, my daughter Megan, and I asked her a lot of those questions. Just like hey, did I do this right when I was bringing you guys up with my MS? I don't know if there's a right or wrong way, but I didn't want my kids to be afraid of the disease, so I tried to just get them to understand, hey, dad's got to do a shot every day, and they would help me push the plunger down on the syringe, just to let them know that, hey, dad's okay. He's still your dad. He's still going to be able to do everything he can with you. But you got to understand that he might not be able to do things, and that's kind of the way I raised my kids, and I don't know, I don't know if there's a right or wrong. It's a tough road, because that's going through our head. I mean, we're their dad. We want to be there. We want to play. We want to play with them. We want to play hoops with them. We want to play catch with them. But, and there's things that we can't do, and that hurts us so deeply. I know it did for me. It tore my heart out knowing that I couldn't do that with my kids.
It affects me the same way, man. Like I told you, man, I have young kids. I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And man, my 2-year-old, she don't understand right now, but I may push myself, but I try to do things with her. I try to play with her. I try to, even though I can't run, she'll run around the house, but I'll walk behind her.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing I say to anybody that has been diagnosed with this disease. We figure it out. I figured out how to be a part of my kid's life the best I could. Early in my diagnosis, when you couldn't even really tell that I had MS, I was a lot like you for those 6 years. You were working and you were in remission and all that. I was doing great. I was going out. I was golfing all the time. But once it starts limiting you, it's hard. It's a hard mental battle, and we just gotta realize that, hey, just because we can't do something like we used to, we can still do it. We just might have to adjust how we do it.
Yeah. Like multiple sclerosis, it took my relationship from me. It took me out of that comfort zone. And to this day, I don't look at it like that because I refuse. The fighter in me refuses to say multiple sclerosis took it. What I say now is God had to break me down so he could build me up the way he want me to be built up.
Mm-hmm.
And man, my faith is stronger. Um, I'm always reading my Bible, listening to gospel music. Like things are different with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I can tell God is working on me. He's getting me to a place where, hey, I took you out of that negative self to break you down and build you up how I always had you in my image
Mm-hmm.
of you.
Yeah.
And man, I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. I get it, Q. I really, MS kind of, it changed my life. It made me see things a lot different. It made me see people different. I know we talked about this a little bit in yesterday when we were before we recorded, and just working in the prison. I think I really liked that experience that I had, that 20 years. It taught me a lot about people, and getting that diagnosis of MS, that it really taught me a lot about people too. It taught me. I watched how people treated disabled people more. Even when I was like, you couldn't tell. I still knew that, okay, well, that might be me, in another 5 or 10 years. And I just watched how people were treated, and it was like an eye opening experience, just seeing it, and witnessing how different um, the disabled and the elderly are treated compared to the regular population. And I didn't really pay attention to that before I was diagnosed, but after I got diagnosed, I paid attention to it a lot more, and it opened my eyes to the diagnosis. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it'll do that, man. It'll really open your eyes. Like it made me in the later time before I was taking off work, it made me it humbled me.
Mm-hmm.
It made me see people different.
Mm-hmm.
Made me sympathize more with them.
Mm-hmm.
I made me actually become a professional.
Yeah, I agree, man. Amen. That's well said. I say the same thing. It really opened my eyes up, Q. I love that, man. What is your, I mean, where you're at now? How did you get there? I mean, you said a lot of it is your faith. I mean, you rely on your faith, and I appreciate that too, Q. Because you got to find something. You got to find something that motivates you, that keeps you fighting to wake up that next
Yes,
day. And you found
yes,
God, and I love that.
yes. I tell people all the time, man, when he took me out of my relationship, um, it led me to come have a conversation with my mother that we should have had over 25 years ago, and talking out talking out those problems and hashing out those issues. I asked her, I said, man, is it all right if I stay over here? Because I'm not going back where I was.
Yeah,
And she said, yeah, she had no problem with it.
yeah.
And yeah, it's something that
You did what
that
was
yeah,
yeah, you did what was right for you, Q, man. You realized that you were in a stressful situation. It was affecting your MS, and you made the decision. You know what? I got to do what I got to do. I got to suck my pride up, and you know what? I got to move back with family. But that's the beautiful part about having family that care, and that are there for you, and you were able to do that. And like you said, it was the best thing that you did, for your MS and for you, and that's an awesome thing, and people need to hear that. You gotta do what's right for you in the long, in the end of it, you got to do what's right for you.
yeah. Even if people don't understand, man, you have to put yourself first at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I eventually did. And like even taking the step to leave that situation, where I wasn't wanted. Like now, man,
Can't stop you now.
it's no, no.
Yeah.
Like I'm constantly head down every day working.
Yeah.
Like if I'm if I'm not working out or working on things with myself, I'm sitting down reading my Bible or I'm cleaning and listening to gospel music.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, and even though I'm still going through the disability process, like I told you yesterday, man, you just have to understand that, man, we're being judged by people who are sitting behind the desk that don't know anything about what we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people that are determining whether they're going to help us or not.
Right.
And so I can't get mad about it. I just pray about it.
Yeah.
And I know in due time, man, God will bless me with everything He wants me to have.
Yeah. And you can't, and you just got to keep on going. You got to trust in, the process, and trust in who, your creator, trust in your God, and you got to keep on fighting on. I love it, Q. I love talking to you. Is there, anything that you would want to say to anybody that is in a similar situation as you? I mean, they're 10 years into their diagnosis. They've been through similar situations, relationship situations. What would your message be just to keep on fighting for the next day? No matter what kind of disease you're fighting right now, what would be your message?
Man, well, whatever your faith may be or anything, man, find God. Give it to God. God will always lead you where He wants you to go. And just block out all the noise, block out all the negativity, and keep working. Put your head down and keep working. Like it's just one of those things. Fight through. Like God gives His hardest battles to His toughest soldiers, and anybody dealing with MS, we are His strongest fighters because He know we won't fold.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're dealing with these.
Yeah, I love it, Q, man. I love it. Yeah, I think that MSers are all badasses. I say this all the time. MSers figure shit out, and I haven't met one yet that, after hearing their story and how they keep on fighting and how they don't give up, and where they've been. It doesn't matter where I talk to people. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to them in the United States, East Coast, West Coast, United States, UK, Ireland, Norway. It does not matter. Everybody that I talk to, they are just fighters. We all have that in common, and we just pick each other up, and that's the one thing that that when I met you on TikTok, man. I love our community, and it's just so important. It's a part of my life now, and it really it's an awesome feeling to know that, you got other people that understand you.
Yes, and they go through those same battles, and they can empathize with us,
Hmm.
and and encourage us and uplift us. And man, I this community, man, I I call it our chosen family. We were chosen.
Hmm. Yeah.
And man, it's a family like no other, and I love it, man. I love every single person that's dealing with MS, man.
I do too, brother. And I tell everybody it does not matter, man. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what race you are, what political views you believe. None of that shit matters, man. If you got MS, that's all that matters to me. And you're my brother, you're my sister, and that's the way I
Yeah,
that's the way I live my life. MS has it to me, everybody that has a chronic disease, man, we're all brothers and sisters.
yes, and man, it's MS or any chronic disease. It doesn't skip you because of your views or anything. It doesn't care about that, man.
Hmm.
It just wants to test somebody. So man, just stay strong, man. God will get you through it, man.
I love it, Q. I love it. Q, thank you so much for sharing your journey with me, man. I love talking to you. I open invitation whenever you want to come back on to talk any more about your journey. You haven't you can message me anytime, brother. Man, I love talking to you. I love meeting you today, and I really thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, man.
All right, buddy. All right. If you want to follow
Uh,
me on TikTok, I'm MS Michigan Man 64. You can also find me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64. And I'm on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're watching on, Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Until the next episode, MS Michigan Man 64, I am out.